I'm Harry, and this is Drum Electric. The SPD-SX PRO's app is really, really good and a little bit daunting at the same time. So if you're like me and you've come from the SX up to the SX Pro, and you've gone from the Wave Manager to the new app, by the way, if you don't know where to find or download it, feel free to hit the subscribe button, as my next video will be exactly that. Anyway, here's the basics of how to use the app to get you started with it and hopefully getting you comfortable to start exploring it a little bit more. So the first thing is plugging in the SX Pro. Once you've done that, it's just a USB-B cable. It's the exact same as the SPD-SX. You'd think that'd get easier to say. It doesn't. So once you've plugged in the Pro and you've turned it on and it's all there and you've loaded up the app and all of the fun things that you need to do to get this working, is then you get this screen. Load data and start app. Now, if that doesn't show up, that means something's gone wrong somewhere. So check the cable, make sure all the connections are there, see what happens. But once it is there, you then get this, which is terrifying. If you've gone from the SX to the Pro, this is just very aggressive on the face. So, yeah, just soak it in for a minute. All the neon colours and yeah. Anyway, this app is really good, I promise. So I've broken this down into sections to make more sense of it, but feel free to take whichever part works for you so you can use it too. So the first thing, if we look at the top left, up here is all of the tags for the samples. Now this is really handy because in the SX Pro, there's about 1,500 samples, which is just, it's a stupid amount of samples, but that's in like a really good way. I much prefer to have 1,500 samples that are all really good rather than 3 terrible ones. So anyway, this is how you navigate them. So if I wanted a clap sound, I can click on claps and it just finds all the clap sounds for me. If I wanted a snare and a clap, the same thing. Or if I just wanted a snare, there you go. Let's go back onto claps, and that brings me beautifully into the next section, which is the search bar and then all of the waves / samples, whatever you want to call them. As you can see, there are loads. So what you can do is you can just click on all of them. You can preview them by pressing the little preview button here, which is really handy. And then that segues me beautifully, I'm doing really well here, onto the next part, which is the actual pad and the sampling bit itself. So if I chose a hand clap, then I'd want to put that onto the SX Pro somehow. To do that, we go into this middle section, which is pretty much a replication of what you can see on the SX Pro's screen. So at the top here, you've got the kit, and if you click on that, it brings up every single kit in the thing, which is bonkers, so all the way up to 200. Or you can click the next and the back buttons, and the great thing, if you look at the SPD-SX Pro, when you do this, it changes at the same time live, which is just insane. Anyway, let's stick to 001 Dance, which will be on your Pro 2, because it's just one of the default things. Now below that, you've got each individual pad. So pad 1 to 9, which is just the pads on the SX Pro. And then on the right-hand side, you've got all of the triggers and the 2 foot switches, which, yes, you can put a sample on the foot switch, which is just very handy. So you've essentially got 8 triggers, which is quite cool. So for example, if I wanted to put the hand claps onto a blank kit, then I'm going to click up here. Let's go number 45. It's completely blank. Oh, I've already got a clap on there. That's nice. Let's put another one. Let's click and drag onto pad 4. Job done. And as you do this, if you look at the Pro, you can see it. Again, it does it live. And the best bit is you can hit the pad and hear it whilst it's still plugged in. You don't have to exit out of it like the SX. And it's just, oh, it's just so wonderful. I love it so much. If I want to remove it, I can just right click, clear wave assign. Are you sure? Clear. Success. Thank you very much. And see you later. So that's this top bit here. And that's where you're going to drag and drop all of your samples. Now the last bit, and arguably the most terrifying bit, is this bottom bit here. And this is where you have all of the individual settings for each pad and each sample. So if I go back to the first bank, the patch 001 Dance, I'm going to click on pad 1. Now, as you can see, there are 2 samples on here. Now, each pad has samples A and B. And that basically means you can have 2 samples on a pad. It's really cool. But the great thing is you can change what they do. So my favorite bit about this, similarly to the Roland Octapad, is that you can hit the pad quite gently and it'll play one sample. You hit it harder, it'll play a different sample. So it just makes it a little bit more realistic, which is really cool. So if you did want just one sample on a pad, pad 4 is a great example. It's just in the blue patch here, layer A, and there's off on layer B. It's really simple. So just a heads up, if you did want one sample on it, use layer A. Makes it a little bit easier for you. So back on pad 1, we've got 2 loops here, one on layer A and one layer B. If we go down to this bottom section, we can see exactly what's happening and change it if we want to. So layer A, as we can see, is loop 13 synth 1. No idea what it sounds like. I'm sure it's wonderful. As we can see, loop is on. You can change it off. You can loop it twice, 4 times, 8 times. Trigger type, alternative or one shot. That basically means if it's on alternative, like it is now, you hit it once, it plays. You hit it again, it will stop. If it's one shot, then it will just play every time you hit it. And finally, at the bottom, you got poly and mono, same on the SX. Now, next to that, you've got all the panning, the volumes, the different effects layering, and then you've also got sample to delay sync and how much that is. And then it's exactly the same for layer B. So you've got all of those individual samples there. You can also turn off and on each sample. So like I said with pad 4, if you only had layer A, you can turn off layer B. You don't have to worry about it. On the right-hand side here, you have what essentially each layer does. So as you can see, both layers will pretty much play at the same time as a mix, which is quite cool. So what you can do, and arguably my favorite one as well, is choose what that does from all of these settings. Now, I won't go through all of them now, but I will show you my favorite, which is the switch, which is what I was saying before, where if you hit the sample quietly, the first layer A will play. If you hit it hard, layer B will play. Really cool, but that's how you do that. Explore all of these because they're really, really cool and just quite handy. Anyway, moving on, I'm going to quickly go through all of these so you can see them. But you've got the EQ for layer A and layer B. You've got the layer transients, the outputs, which in itself looks terrifying. But basically all it is go downwards in a column. So let's go pad 1. It's currently being synced to the master and the phones. I just wanted headphones. I wanted master and headphones and just click accordingly. The effects, there's all your settings. So again, pad 1, it's going to, that's the output. And what you can do is send that through Master Effects 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. On the right-hand side, again, you've got slightly more detailed effects and the outputs and how that works. It starts getting real, not complicated, but just can be a little bit intense. Again, if you're going from the SX to the Pro, this is where the power is. You've also got pad link, which is really cool. You've got the pad mute groups, all of the LEDs, so if you want to change the color of the pad, which I do frequently, you can do here. The pad sequencer, which is where you can have, rather than if you had like a Glock, for example, rather than going dum 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 on 6 pads and doing that really quickly, you can just put all of that onto one pad. So you can just go dum 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 dum. It's beautiful. Then you've got the click settings, which in itself is amazing that we've now got that. Then all of the MIDI settings, which having this here rather than going into the pad is really helpful. And I do have a video coming up on using the SX Pro with Ableton as a MIDI controller, so make sure to hit subscribe for that. And then finally, you've got what the 2 knobs on the front do, which are usually the effect settings, but you can actually change what they do. But that's all down here. Whew. That's a lot, and I didn't really dive in. So my best advice for this is just sit with it, press a bunch of buttons, and see what can happen. Worst comes to worst, you just reset it, start again, job done. But it does take a little bit of time getting used to, but that's okay, because once you do get used to it, it's actually a really, really powerful tool. And actually, now that we can edit it and play it at the same time, that immediately makes it loads easier because we can have the SX Pro app up in a performance setting or a rehearsal setting and adjust everything real time as we play it. And then you can just save it to the kit. Job done. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. Download it. Have fun with it. Have a play around. Don't be afraid of it. That's for sure. And as always, if you have any questions, please lob them in the comment section down below. And I'd love to help out wherever I can. And have a fantastic day.